We are back with our 10 for 10 collector series, and I'm super looking forward to today's episode because we have the near and dear, these didn't charge, the near and dear Miles, LAFC.Gooner. And he was introduced to me by a friend in the hobby, AG, Adriana Guerrera from Only All. She said, you got to have this guy on. You got to talk soccer with him. He knows his stuff. So I'm super looking forward to today's episode. Quickly, before we jump in and I introduce you, Miles, and give you the floor, guys, we have our Whatnot show tomorrow morning, okay? So that's, Cage, I mean, that's maybe one of the most fun things we've done in a long time. We get to roll out of bed, I get my cold brew in hand, and we just make plays, daily fantasy. We just do a show like no other show out there, just educating people, helping them, having some laughs. Cage makes elephant noises and shit. So
yeah, Andrew, for one crazy play, Andrew puts on a banana hammock.
I do. Not a banana hammock. You're an idiot. So without further ado, we're going to talk all things soccer cards, all things hobby. Miles, I want to welcome you to the show, man. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, guys. Good to be here. Glad.
So you're wearing a France jersey. Talk to me about Mbappe, man. This guy came on the scene. He was the best prospect since sliced bread. And now he took a break from the national team. So, like, what would you be doing if you're holding his cards? I know I'm jumping in really specific, but you have that France shirt, and I couldn't hold back.
I definitely think the ego has gotten to him, man. Like, you know, I'm sure you guys, if you guys are like soccer fans, I'm sure you're familiar with Balotelli. And I'm hearing he's getting to that point, right, where, like, you know, if you watch that Maradona documentary on HBO, they talk to him all the time about like how it gets to your head, where every single person, every country you go to, every city you go to, tell you you're like the greatest person in the world. At a certain point, right, you have all this money, all these things, you're like an 18-year-old kid, it gets to your head. And I think, you know, you rise to the top, and what's it been now, like 2 years in a row where his heart was crushed, right? Two Champions League back-to-back final losses, then that missed penalty in the Euro, and then everything comes crashing down on you. And I haven't seen him be himself for like a few months until yesterday's game, where he decided to show up at the second half. So it's just like, it was nice to finally see him be himself, bury that penalty, and like, you know, be so dynamic up the wing, pushing off defenders, like all that fun stuff that you want to watch from him, right? It's been a little while, but you know, we'll get there. The talent is there. Hopefully he just doesn't lose his mind, but you know, that's the risk we take, right?
It's funny you say it gets to his head, right? Or because I forgot what he looks like. I now only know what like the video game version of him looks like because it permeates everyday life. You turn on the television, doesn't matter if you're watching football or baseball, there's an EA Sports or whatever it is commercial of Mbappe. I thought it was him. It's not him. It's a video game of him running down the sidelines. It's you know, some soccer video. I mean, he is literally everywhere. And Andrew has famously said that Mbappe just doesn't know how to score. So, you know, he won an award for that.
Cage is so good at quoting me, man. What I said was Mbappe is this interesting talent. Balotelli is actually an interesting comparison. Balotelli had all the athletic talent. He had some of the scoring prowess. He had some of the playmaking prowess, but it was inconsistent, right? It was like flashes.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen with Mbappe. Like, he has a lot of opportunities in front of goal, and he kind of hits it right at the goalie. He shoots, he doesn't finish, right? And there is something like, I don't know if you remember Van Nistelrooy.
Yep.
Not the most athletic guy, but somehow he would always finish the ball, right?
Because there's always like, you know, you're right. Like, it's always like that low driven shot. And like, you know, you always see it. There's no like chip, curve, something, you know, like it gets predictable after a while because like, you know, if you're creating space and you just make that little shot, like, yeah, after a while it gets old. And then if you get figured out, you know, what's next in your evolution, right? Like, what did Kobe do to evolve his game? What did Jordan do to evolve his game, right? Like, you get stopped. You know, there's only so far your natural talent can take you in these things because the defenders are good enough to figure you out. There's enough tape, right? There's enough tape.
Miles, take us back. How did you start? How did you find your niche into soccer cards?
Oh, man. All right. So this is a long story. So I've been in the hobby since I was like 10. So I started.
And you are how old now? Just to I'm 31.
32.
32. Cool. Cage is 34, so we're right in between both.
Yes, 34 times two.
Two kids, right? Jesus, man.
So I started when I was about 10. I bought and sold Magic the Gathering cards, Pokemon, all the card games when I was really young. And I was actually like really fortunate to work for the guy who started the biggest Magic the Gathering store in the US, Channel Fireball. And he basically taught me how to be a buyer from when I was a little kid, from 13 to like 18. Then I started getting a little more serious. I traveled more to like Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, started doing deals out there because, you know, there's a lot of arbitrage opportunities between the US and Asia because like I'd go and I'd find a buy list for a card in the US for like $7. You can find it in Asia for like $3, buy 1,000 of them, bring them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Is this like in between middle school or high school?
This is when I was like end of high school, going into college. So I would go back and forth, and then I travel across the country buying and selling stuff. So then I got into sports cards when I was in college, and I tried it for the first time because the money is exponentially larger. Even back then, in like the late 2000s, the money was exponentially larger in sports cards than it was in gaming cards. So I tried it. I tried the whole thing. I prospected. Oh my God! So like my baseball guys were like Matt Laporta, Jason Hayward. I prospected Bryce Harper over Mike Trout. You know, like I went down that path. I tried football. I made more money off Tyler Thigpen and Kevin Cobb than I ever made off Stafford, Matt Ryan, any of these other guys. Like I opened an NT box. I got a Jamarcus Russell NTRPA 99, held it. I had Steph Curry exquisite NT RPA 99. Like it was like $300-$400, right? Like it wasn't that big of a deal. And what I found myself doing when I was trying to guide myself, even though I thought I was more educated on the topic, right? I found myself treading water because I didn't have the resources to buy and hold and wait for things to appreciate, right? Because I was trying to operate on that 10 to 20% flipping, and there's too much volatility in these big prospects to, you know, I didn't have the bankroll to like support myself long enough to keep going. So I kind of checked out of it for a while. And
I love this already. Just to jump in here, I've done 450 episodes with the big man over there. Mostly everybody comes on here is like, you know, I picked Giannis, and when I didn't pick Giannis, I picked Kawhi. So Cage loves it. I know that when people kind of come on here right off the bat are like, "Hey, these are my mistakes."
Yeah, nobody talks losses, and it's one of those things, right? That I like to talk about that nobody else in the world does about luck in the hobby. And you've now gone through. You happen to be in the right spot, the right place, the right time, learning how to collect from, you know, one of the top Magic the Gathering, you know, collectors, one of the TCG guys. But then even then, it's luck. We have people who come on, and it's funny. It's like, oh, yeah, when did you start collecting? Oh, 96. I got huge into it. I was a big Kobe guy. And you're like, all right, well, guess what? You're going to succeed. When did you start collecting? Oh, 2003. Oh, I was a big LeBron guy. Guess what? Good luck. You know, well done. You happen to be born the right year where your high school coincided with LeBron coming out. Yep. Now it sounds like started collecting in that 08, 07, 09 kind of area where you could have hit the nose right on the head, right? You could have some LeBron in there. You could have had some Steph Curry. But here's the fun, right? You're being honest, right? I've seen two of the Bowman Chrome draft autos of Mike Trout. I've seen two. Like my friend had both of them and then flipped them for like, I want to say like $1,000 profit a piece, which back then was insane, right? But yeah, it's huge money. But the thing is also, Curry was not huge in 09, and neither was Trout in 2009, 2010, 2000. You know, I mean, those Bowman Chrome autos of those guys in the national churches of Curry. It's funny because, you know, people should listen to this because, you know, right now we're in the whole like buy, flip, Herbert, buy, flip, Mahomes, buy, flip. Back then, the Trevor Lawrence was Jamarcus Russell.
Yep.
You were thrilled to get that because you're like, I got the number one pick. This guy signed for $60 million. He throws the ball from his knees, 65 yards, Raiders, let's go. And now you're like, anybody besides Jamarcus Russell, right? So, I mean, it's funny because, you know, that's one of the things about the hobby. And I want to get back to your roots and the soccer and the whole deal. But this is important because we really never get this. And you were not turned off by it. You were not like, all right, I'm quitting the hobby. I'm going to go collect something else. I'm going to sneaker flip, right? It's part of the honesty of it, right? You know, you go on YouTube and it's like, oh, I want to get into a box break. Sure, $4,000 for National Treasures break. Let's rock. Look what this guy just pulled the Zion. This guy just pulled the Ja out of 5. And you're like, I'm going to get that. And you wind up with Goga Batazzi as your best card. You're like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing Miles. The true soccer players, we're resilient. You can go 90 minutes, get the ball twice, and score 2 goals. So, Miles, it all led to the right place, resiliency, soccer players, 90 minutes. So talk to us.
Yeah, so I fell off from sports cards for a while. Then I grew up adjacent to soccer because Asian European family, we'd always watch the World Cup. Nothing's really televised, right? So when you talk to a lot of people in the States too, it's just like people don't realize soccer's a learned love for the majority of us, right? Because how are you going to grow up watching the games, learning the players? There's no internet is relatively new. Streams are impossible to find, blah, blah, blah. So when NBC got the rights and I could finally watch my Arsenal play, and I got to watch pretty regularly, you get turned on to it, obviously because it's easy to watch the games, right? So,
Americans love Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Americans love Arsenal. They never win, but Americans love them.
It's a cool name.
Yeah.
I mean, what should I should root for Barca?
Newcastle
now. Newcastle.
Blackpool.
So yeah, I mean, I got into it. I stuck with it. I got into it. I checked out from sports cards, but I stuck with cards most of my life. But the lessons I learned from before, they never really left me. So when I was when the sports card market was booming, there's a lot of things that I took from my previous experience. Don't chase big prospects. I sat down and I thought, why am I chasing the big three sports? And that's the thing that bothers me the most about the hobby, is that a lot of people on the internet perpetuate this, promote low populations, look at scarcity, all these other things, but they continue to attack the biggest three sports that America produces, and then also attack the same marketplaces that everyone else attacks. So if the market is already so saturated, why am I putting all my energy into there? So then when I re-looked at the landscape, even Panini, who's producing the cards, is still trying to learn the soccer market as they go. If the marketplace that I'm trying to compete in, that I'm trying to enter into, doesn't know the star players, doesn't know the prospects, doesn't even know what cards to buy, the manufacturers don't even know what rookie cards are, what screams opportunity to you when you're stepping back in, right? The cards are so much cheaper. The print runs were so much lower. I remember buying cases from GTS of 2017 Chrome that had stickers shipped from Taiwan to Singapore back to the US because they literally couldn't sell the product. So, you check the checklist. The print runs are so much smaller because the parallels are so much, there's so much fewer parallels. So, so much opportunity in how you look at everything. So, when it's just a bubbling point, right? People wanted to attack scarcity, and this was it. So I jumped in late. I want to say late 2019. I had 20,000 to my name, and I dumped everything into it, and we just went ham. And the last year has been, the 2020 was insane. 2021 was also insane. So now I just look at how much the hobby's grown in such a short amount of time, because we really came from nothing, literally nothing. It's been wild to watch so many people collect this sport now. And people know who these prospects are. They know the teams, everything. It's quite remarkable. But here we are.
I don't know. I got this Kamavinga guy. I don't know what the hell it is. I have a couple bucks here. I don't know who these guys are. I can pull them out of boxes. People are like, yeah, that guy's good. I have no idea. So, you know what's funny about this? Andrew and I hate this saying. We hate buy what you love, right? But I think in listening to you, maybe I'll put a caveat on it, because you've now gone through 3 different evolutions of your collecting, right? You started with your Magic the Gathering. Maybe you love that. Maybe you didn't. Who knows? And you came back in thinking flipping, right? I'm going to go buy some baseball and buy some basketball. I'm going to prospect, you name it. And then you saw an opportunity. But I think the opportunity was there. I like to tell Andrew, there's a lot of luck involved. It's luck. And he's like, you create your own luck with hard work. He yells
Harvey Dent said that, right?
You create your own luck with Tim Grover and Rolf and Fozzie Bear and all the other Muppets. Right, so and he tells
Harvey Dent, you clown, so that I make my own luck, and then
I don't know, but you always talk about Tim Grover. I don't know. He's not my least favorite Muppet. But point is, you came back in and said, you know what? I love soccer. It wasn't just that you were buying what you love. Because you love it, you were able to take advantage of the market. You were able to buy what you love and use your knowledge to buy in when no one else was buying in, to buy the right stuff when people didn't know what to buy. So that's kind of like a nice little twist on buy what you love. Buy what you love, but also be smart about it, right? Because you're not going to love it if it goes down in value.
I think that like the way I was taught buy what you like, I see what people say now, but the way I was taught buy what you love, it's not just buy what you like because when it goes to $0, it'll fail. You buy what you love because you get into the nitty gritty of understanding what you're buying, right? Because you have to become borderline obsessed with it. Like I love Magic the Gathering, so I can tell you the print runs of all the original sets that I was investing into because I had to dig into it to understand what you're putting your money into. That's how I was taught. And that's the same principle that I carried when I tried to do everything else. And when I steered away from that and I jumped into sports cards, buying things that, buying prospects and things what, common knowledge told me to buy, that's when I failed. And, I remembered that later on in life because it was a failure. And it's okay. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned about this landscape, everything else. And, it carried me into the future and I did well. I don't think I would have done nearly as well now if I didn't fail in my 20s. And, it's fine. It's fine now because everything worked out, right?
Yeah, everything worked out, right?
Everything
Come on,
worked
Andrew,
out.
don't you have a saying? Isn't there some fancy, like, the road to success is paved with failures? Don't you have some kind of guru talk thing for me?
They don't come from the head; they come from the heart. So, so you're immigrant, right? Immigrant family. What did
Immigrant family. I was born here. Yep.
what did they have to say about you going the route of cards and flipping and the non-traditional route? Were they supportive of it?
Man, I just kind of did it myself, to be honest. I mean, like after a while, I just kind of checked out from it. Like you can't, no parent can. God, the amount of cash I would have on me was kind of gross, even as like a kid. I mean, like, cause like I remember because I would freak out. I remember asking my parents things like, how much money can you bring on a plane with you without getting it seized by the government, like stuff like that, right? Like, so like it.
This is when you're flying from LA to Vietnam or LA to.
Well, I'd fly even like, domestically, right? Like anywhere in the US to like go to tournaments to buy or sell or things like that. I've been a vendor for a good 10 years now. I'm pretty experienced at it. Like I showed up, like I did the first show after the pandemic, the big Dallas show, and I set up and like this was like second nature to me because I'd done it like 30 times before in my life too.
So if we talk about soccer cards, let's get into kind of the value, the nitty gritty here. Like, where would you be looking? Pele. Okay, he's in his 80s. He's not signing a lot. Do I go for Pele autographs? Maradona passed away this year. Two legends of the game. You see Johan Cruyff. His cards are on Nat Turner's top 100 list. So do you go that direction? Go vintage, or are you prospecting here? Haaland, he's going to transfer this year and I'm going to buy and flip him when he does move. How are you looking at the soccer landscape in 2021 of what's today? October 10th, October 7th, whatever it is.
So Andrew, you're gonna understand this better than anyone else because like, again, learning what you love is that like the success rate of prospects in soccer is astronomically higher, right? So if we talk baseball, the same prospects, you got to go A plus, AA, AAA pros, right? You're playing against the same competition level. Maybe there's some variance. Like maybe you go to the PCL where it's a hitter friendly, hitter friendly minor league, right? And you get a little bit of boosted numbers there. But in soccer, since there's so many leagues and there's the top prospects that are distributed among the lower level teams, a Bundesliga top prospect will always play against those shittier, lower tier Bundesliga teams. And he'll always have that chance of success. They'll feed him the ball. He'll get everything. He'll shine. And then because all these young kids, honestly, they all get bought by a team bigger up or they get a chance for their national team. There's so many more opportunities for these guys to succeed. So that's why we see so many like booms when a guy transfers, but they don't get quite to the top, right? Because everyone now is chasing the next Haaland. Everyone moved up. Like what you had like Havertz, Mount, Werner, all those guys that moved in the last year. They stepped up, but they never became transcendent quite like Haaland did. So there's always that opportunity to get from point A to point B, but maybe they never become, the best. But you can be damn sure that they take a step up in their careers. So that's always, that's a really good point. But the thing I'm focusing on now is that you mentioned Cruyff and like that Monty Gum that Nat Turner posted. I don't know if you saw, like there was a Thierry Henry PSA 8. I want to say the population's under 50 total graded. It's over 22K on Golden. Player nobody's paying attention to, one of the greatest of all time, true rookie, 22,000, and we haven't heard a blip about it yet because it hasn't gone to radar. Have we even gone to a radar where, like, someone huge, like, I don't know, sports card investor is saying, oh my God, look at this 100,000. Like, there was how much did Ronaldo sell for? 300K PSA 10 on the last Golden.
Mm-hmm.
The media hype, the community hype behind that, it's almost non-existent outside of the soccer niche. That's a huge sale.
Can I ask? I agree. Does it matter that the Ronaldo is a card and Henry or those kind of like Panini? Are they stickers?
They're stickers.
Kind of mini stickers. Does that matter?
Does it matter to you? That's my question.
I like the stickers more. I think the stickers are kind of cooler and they're harder to grade, but that's my own preference. And I don't try to make fetch happen, as Cage once said.
That's like the card. I think he has a card from the next year. Henry has a card from the next year, but it's worth substantially less. But that's the thing, right? Because you're trying to marry a different culture, right? It's easy for us to say, hey, go buy Topps Chrome because we have a legacy of 25 years of Topps Chrome at this point. We've been collecting it. It was like we collect Chrome because it was the thing that got U.S. collectors out of the junk wax phase, right? So we put our money into Chrome and we've been collecting it ever since. For the stickers, that's heritage for all of these Europeans across the board, right? So at what point do American collecting values and European collecting values actually coexist? And when are the Europeans going to step up and pay the price of the collectibles that they're chasing? That culture has to develop in both areas. And we're watching it happen, and we see these astronomical sales. And by the time it gets to public radar, I don't think they'll be attainable for anyone anymore at a certain point,
Henry, you got Cage's head spinning because Cage isn't really a soccer guy by nature.
No, but I saw that
Henry
card. I saw that Golden card. I saw that it's a 22,000. It's a red border
Yeah, it's a
card.
red.
I definitely did notice it. I mean, I look because you're right. No one's looking at it right now. You know what I mean? And I got into soccer pretty early. What I didn't like about it, and I mean, this is, I mean, I wish I wasn't like this, but I like knowing the card. I like knowing the thing to buy, right? I know what card to buy of Michael Jordan. I know what card to buy of, Joe Montana. I know what card to buy of Mickey Mantle, right? Because it's pretty straightforward. You might have a little argument about Mantle.
Isn't that crazy, Cage? We're talking about an Henry that's probably price parallel to a PSA 86 or is it 86? The Joe Montana? No, it's way earlier than that. 81, right? 81. It's like price parallel, PSA 10 Joe Montana to an Henry PSA 8. That's wild to me, man. Like the PSA 10 81 Montana is like iconic to this hobby. And we're getting passed by things that we haven't even thought about yet. Like I looked at the last PWCC Premier auction. The Pele Alifa Boulanger is sitting right there with the best LeBron gold refractors, the best Jordan rookie cards. It's sitting right there on that list in the top 25 price sold, right? It's wild to me. And
so I'm always worried about that.
You just got yours graded, right, Miles?
I just did, yeah.
The alphabet one, the Alifa Boulanger, right? So what'd you get? What would you grade?
Nailed it. I got a 2. There's some glue on. Yeah, there's some glue on the back which limits the grade. So like personally, like where I'm looking right now is where I'm putting my money in eye appeal right now because like I feel like there's a delta of value that hasn't been appreciated by the hobby. Like we're putting too much value on the grade rather than the eye appeal. So I went out and
that card. I owned that card. So when I came back into this, I said, you know what, I want to start buying goats. I want to start buying all kinds of stuff. I wanted a Pele, and I sold that card. I owned it too. I owned the PSA too. And I can't.
Darren Ravel sent Cage a mean DM, and he said, "You're an idiot for owning this card." And Cage sold it the next day.
I think I paid $1,500. I think I paid like $1,500 or something like that for it. I think I paid like $1,500.
Did you make money? I hope you made money.
Yeah, like 10x on it, but obviously that is now nothing compared to what it should be or what it goes for now. It goes for a lot more than that. I sold it because, and here's why. Right? There are other cards of Pele.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them.
In that realm, in the same year, right? that postage stamp, which is really what it is. I mean, people don't realize that you get it in hand. So everybody could see it online. You don't realize it. It's like an inch by an inch. I mean, it's a tiny little thing. It looks like a stamp.
Hey, don't talk about yourself like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
everyone's seen you in your banana hammock.
There's other there's picture ones. There's ones of the team, right? What do they call Heinerlay? Then there's the Quigol, right? I'll say it wrong, but Quigol, right? Quigol.
I'm
right?
impressed.
Well, if it's cards, I know it. The hell with soccer, I don't. If it's cards, I know it, right? So, but that's a cool eye appeal looking card. It's a little bit bigger than the postage stamp one. But why I sold was you never know which one of those is. Yeah, there's one, right? Heinerlay. There's the Quigol that I was talking about, 100%. That's the Swedish record, right?
Yep. Oh man, you did your homework. I'm impressed. I shouldn't expect anything else, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try to know what we're talking about. Yeah. So this is but that's the thing. Like, you're smart. You bought them all. Like, I wasn't gonna buy every one of them. Right? I bought the one, and I'm like, oh, maybe I got the wrong one. And I wish I did.
It's kind of a mutual. It's actually what we talk about, Cage, is the mutual fund, right? Like, sometimes you don't know which Kobe rookie to buy. Let's use that example. So buy the ones you can and create your own mutual fund. So that way you're covered. If the Afagotale goes up, 100%, but the others go up.
I love
but
it.
the others go up, 15%. At least you're kind of balancing it out.
I think the Swedish record is cool. The Swedish record I think is cool because the exact same era, the exact same problem exists for Muhammad Ali. Cassius Clay at the time. And there are arguments over what's the rookie. He has a Swedish record also, which is pretty cool. Like, you can mirror up a Cassius Clay and a Pele in the same card, which is kind of cool. Although those were cut from the front of a magazine. Mm-hmm. So people will argue that it's not even a card. So it's,
what's crazy is that, like, within the vintage community, the best Pele is actually shifted over. It used to be the Quigol, but people now speculate it was printed in 1960. So it moved down the list, and the Alifa Boulanger moved up the list. It's like, again, what you're saying, that things can change because, like, we're working in an unknown market, right? Like, risk equals reward. It's the same thing here. Like, you don't actually know until the market decides because new information comes out. There's actually a 57 Pele. It's like a little yellow diamond. Yeah. It's like a little yellow diamond. I want to say the PSA pop is like 3, so it's essentially unattainable. But the last one sold for like 50,000 or something stupid like that raw. It was just, how are you going to find it again?
Yeah, because that's the rookie. Yeah, but it's funny you say this, right? And I'll throw this out there. You tell me what you think, right? Because you're obviously in it, especially when it comes to soccer cards. Part of why I'm not dipping back into it is exactly what you just talked about. Because when I bought the Alifa Boulanger, there were Quigols available. I actually liked the Quigol card better, but it was more expensive. Because at the time, several years ago, when I was jumping back into buying goats, I didn't want to spend as much as the Quigol was, and I wound up selling it. Didn't make a difference. But what I have found is that the influencers and golden auctions, they're only selling the Alifa Boulanger, and that's getting more headlines, more press, and that's why it has moved ahead of the other card because it's in more people's hands who talk about it. Although Darren Ravel famously did tweet at me that it looks like a postage stamp, and he would never. He likes the tuna fish perforated cards better of the Rock.
I mean, it's historical though. I mean, like, there's nothing of them. Like, I'm sure you looked at the PSA pops and you're like, are you kidding me with how much is out there? I mean, like, I even looked at them like, if this 5X is, it doesn't even matter, right? Because there's just non-existent. There's 80 of the Alifa Boulangers graded. Or sorry,
I know. Yeah, look, I shouldn't have sold it. I mean, but more people are grading them. That's the other thing. You graded one. There are raw ones out there that haven't been graded yet. That pop will go up just because it wasn't something that people graded. Although, look, it's almost 60 years old. I mean, it's more than 60 years old, almost 65 years old. Look, you're right.
Kate, should we create a new segment for you? Like, I think it's time.
What?
I shouldn't have sold this.
No, because that would take the whole episode, the whole 9 yards. But Pele is one of those things where it's like that's a no-lose situation. I mean, like, I was actually alive when Pele played. I mean, he was playing for the Cosmos at the time. Yeah. But I was actually alive when Pele was playing. Like, I remember my father watching Pele games. So it's pretty nuts, man. He's clearly, up there. He's clearly a GOAT. I don't care what happens in soccer between, now and then. Messi, Ronaldo, you name it. Pele is the name. So it really doesn't. I don't think it matters which one you get into. If what you think is going to happen with soccer cards happens, and it's going to have more universal adoption, just like the sport is growing, the hobby grows, Europeans accept the cards and start paying as much for the collectibles as other people pay for the other sports. Yeah, I mean, Pele is about as no loser proposition as you can get.
Yeah, the thing that when I was going through a process of getting mine too, he was in the hospital for a few weeks at that point, and I was thinking in my head, I'm going to lose my opportunity to ever own one of these again, and it's really fearful. I don't want to say that I'm profit mongering on his death. It's just the human nature of things that we don't appreciate them until they're gone. That's always what happens, right? Every famous artist, so many famous athletes. It's just what happens, and
yep.
Just have to be cognizant of those opportunities again in front of you too. He's like when you look at Mickey Mantle, there's what I think there's 2,000 graded 52s. I mean, that's 20x of what the Pele's are. It's just there's not that many of them versus
right.
how famous he is. It's just a matter of time and how long you're willing to hold that asset until you see the other end of it.
I want to ask you something, Miles. If we could talk, I want to talk a little bit about content influence media. So you've been through a few of these cycles, right? And we just talked about it. That Pele Afagodache, that's the card.
I got a segment for you. How many ways can Andrew say the Pele card?
English is my second language. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
I love
Spanish is my second. English is my third, actually. So, what was I saying? Just kidding. So Golden decides, hey, we're going to auction that card off more. It gets more notoriety and it goes up in price. How important and what's the role that media plays now? What's the role that content creators play? How do you view that? What's the line that they should toe? Do you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
I mean, it's perception is literally everything, right? Because people forget about the hobby that we're participating in. This is cardboard. All the valuation of everything, it's what we perceive the value of the asset to be, right? If something becomes more prestigious over time, if you push the prestige on the right people and they believe it, it's whatever the market is willing to accept. It isn't a traded asset. This isn't anything it's created. All of this everything is manufactured in a certain sense. It's just what has the characteristics of things that will allow people to push the price of it, right? The population, with the Pele, the population is extremely controlled. The people who decided to buy the population are all incredibly invested into the card. They're not going to flood the market because there isn't the quantity to flood the market. They all see the long-term vision. We've propped up this card through media so people revere it. Because 2 years ago, it was 2 years ago, Cage bought it for maybe 2.5 years ago, you bought it for $1,500 because it was an afterthought. People mocked the card. And Ravel was probably right at the time because how can you see the vision of the card if the right hands aren't pushing it? And that's literally everything. Just how people found research that moves the Queagle to the 60 and pushes it down the list. That's all market perception, right? Is it really worth less? Why aren't we just chasing the 57? There's all these questions that everyone pushes. Just like with the Jordans, the 85 Nike was trash. Ken Golden was giving them away at Shop at Home for 10 years and nobody wanted them. And all of a sudden PSA 10 hit $50K at the peak. That was all market perception. All market perception. We never wanted it back then, and now all of a sudden we want it. We want the 86 star sticker, or the 85 star stickers now. I didn't even hear of that when I was a kid because nobody cared. Most people didn't even care for the Jordan because it was one long-term collector literally told me, I think the 86 Jordan is overprinted trash because if it was any other player in that time period, I wouldn't have cared. It's only Jordan. That's the only reason to him, right? And that's just how things appreciate and value because it's not I've heard this incorrect analogy, right, where people are trying to say high populations justify the high populations as long as there's a consumer base wide enough will justify the price. But the problem is that when the population counts get too high, the assets are always available on the market. So how can you realistically push the price if everyone's going to flood the market time and time and time again? With something like this Pele, it was ripe for people to get hungry and willing to pay more and more and more for it over time because the scarcity was actually controlled. It's just it's one of these things, how the market shaped out.
This is a cool episode for me personally because, guys, this is one of those episodes that you probably go back and listen to 2, 3, 4 times because there's these nuggets that you can kind of pick up on. And this is funny because, Cage, in blockchain and NFT world, we do this too. You go and look at the wallets. Who is holding the asset that I want to buy, right? Because if, for example, if it's retail guys or girls, they're much more likely to sell in a panic versus some people that are holding institutional. Like you mentioned, Pele, there's only 70 copies. The people that are holding this love this card, so you're not going to see a ton of supply on the market. Subtle nuances like this, I think if you pick up, because remember, our audience, Miles, a lot of them are just getting into the hobby. They just got into the hobby, maybe 12 months ago. And we do try to educate them. We don't want them to make a lot of the mistakes that we made ourselves. So that's a big thing, when you get into a card, if you can see who owns that card, that's hugely important because that helps with your exit strategy.
That's what I went through that exercise recently because I was trying to sell everything off and consolidate down. And a lot of what concerned me personally is that it's really liquidity, right? Like I understand how liquid I can be because, again, liquidity is like selling what at the price you want to sell it at, right? Like I was networked enough to know people to sell these assets to at the price I want. Like I know I'm in a good place when I post a card on Instagram and I get like 5, 7, 10 DMs asking me if it's for sale. That's when I know I'm in the right price and I have assets with actual liquidity. Like that's the place I decided I wanted to be. And that's how I've been executing what cards I acquire next.
So let's talk through that, right? Because, if people are going to go back and listen to this, they're hearing you talk about buy cards that have less than 50 pop on the entire population report. Do ones where there's a narrative on it, ones where that population is controlled. Don't get into the ones where the pop is too high. But those rare ones, the liquidity is not there. So what's the sweet spot? And more importantly, because you are the soccer guy, football, beautiful game, right? There'll come a point in time where, most people listening to you can't go out and buy the $300,000 Cristiano Ronaldo. They can't go out and buy the Pele cards. And if you want to continue to collect soccer, collect what you love and try to make money in it, what do you tell people to buy? Because what's being printed now, the populations are getting up there. I mean, if you want to be a Gio Reyna collector, there's no shortage of it if that's who you like. You know what I mean?
There's quite a few, to get that kind of exponential return, there's quite a few of all that stuff being printed. But, it's a lot of it is just operating like honestly, do your research because even the card companies aren't catching up yet, right? Because there's deltas to be taken advantage of at a certain point in time. Like I always look at I listened to someone's YouTube show yesterday where it felt like he just realized that base Prism PSA 10 populations were exploding because of what people were submitting to PSA. It's just like, I can't make any money off Kyler Murray because the PSA population is exploding. It's like, yeah, you should how is it with all these guys that say that they were in the they were using machine learning or whatever stupid buzzword that they're using to advance data to build all these things? How did you not predict that the PSA population of literally every card was going to explode after in the last year?
Can I answer that real quick?
Yeah.
People
No.
In my 20s, I didn't understand it. Experience matters. Actual real life experience and going through cycles matter. And that's where mentorship really helps because a mentor could give you that experience. That machine learning is just here, this is a snapshot, but it doesn't have the nuance and the context and the experience around it.
I would look at everything and realize that the population is going to grow and you have a limited amount of time. There's this guy, I'm not saying to buy this guy, but I'm just using it as an example. There's this guy on Lightspig. Man, I can't say his name. It's Saboldzai. He doesn't have a rookie badge on his card because Topps didn't put a rookie badge on his card. So, if you're looking at an untrained American eye who's relying on the RC badge to submit good rookies to PSA, there's a delta value there because probably fewer people are going to be submitting a card without a rookie badge because they're uncertain it's a rookie. So you have that, if you do the turnaround time and he pops off, then you have that small little window where you have a card which people are looking at because he's hot, but not many people submit it, right? Expand your thinking, see how you can see how you can attack this differently and use it to your advantage. Just like Ricardo Pepi now. People shat on him forever, and now like his Bowman paper base went for $200 last night. I mean, it's because his cards were released. His original print run was released in a Topps Now release when they only made 2,000 packs of it. These are the things you should attack. And these are the things that people really need to look into before they make their final decisions. But, it's really about research. It's really about taking your time.
Cage, you had a similar play with Mason
Greenwood.
Topps Now was one of our, Wiles, we do our show.
$4. They were $4 if you bought him more than 20. $4 for that was his rookie, his first card from Topps with the RC on it is a Topps Now. I mean, there are more than 2,000 of them because people knew who Mason Greenwood was. But yeah, I mean, you could get those. And at the time we gave it, PSA bulk was $8 or $9. So you could be into a PSA 10 on those for like $13 to $15.
So our show it's interesting. So like we do a daily show. So we model it after kind of like CNBC Fast Money, where we Cage and I give a play each. But we want people to look behind the play, like learn the strategy. And I think that one with the Topps Now being able to bulk it at $8, get the card for $4. It's his first rookie card. He's on Manchester United. You might have an opportunity there, like Miles said, learning and seeing those plays. So it's funny you had that play as well, Miles. So we're 40 minutes in here. What do you think? Future. Let's talk future of the hobby. 22 and moving forward. Are you into digital collectibles? Do you find any value in those? And with sports card collectibles and soccer cards, what do you see? And I'm not sure if you've played around with NFT companies So Rare, or Crypto Strikers or anything like that. What do you think about soccer digital collectibles, if you have any opinion at all?
So I'm sticking with what I know best right now. So that's just where I'm going to put all my focus on. But at the same time, I as coming from someone in the TCG world, I don't see people are trying to understand NFTs. And I came from a world where when Diablo 3 came out, there was a real market auction. You're nodding your head, right? Because I would go home as like a 17, 18-year-old, go farm some Diablo, find a rare item, list it on the auction house, wake up with like $200 in my PayPal account.
Yep.
Digital items that people regularly pay for. When I was in the World of Warcraft trading card game, there's something called the Spectral Tiger Loot Mount card you found in a pack, scratched off for a code. Its inherent value was not the card itself, because you can find the scratched off card for maybe $100, but the unscratched code, that's like $6,000, $7,000 now, because it's the NFT that is what's valuable, right? It's the digital asset that people are chasing. People just haven't broken down to the fact that people pay a lot of money for digital assets, and this has been a pretty regular thing for a while now. It doesn't really shock me that people are willing to put money into it. It's just, again, it's really about narrative and what pushes the scarcity of it, right? How people perceive what they want to put money into.
I'm gonna do this post, but like a fork in the road. Yeah. I think that's what we're living through. And that fork, like you said, I mean, digital collectibles have been happening for a long time, but it's both, right? People put money into tangible collectibles and people put money into intangible. And I guess we just are discussing, what's the balance? What percentage is going tangible versus intangible? So I love that analysis.
Well, listen, Cage, what we learned here is, what made him successful was that at the time when everybody else was putting money into basketball and baseball and the big three sports, he said, you know what? I know a little bit of something about soccer. And while people are not putting their money into it yet, I understand why they will in the future. I understand why it makes sense. I understand why this is an untapped market. And he zigged when everybody else was zagging. He took that fork in the road, right?
No, I don't have the resources to compete with the big boys. I'm going to be honest with myself, right? I can't compete. I've seen, that's the thing, is that I was blessed with experience to see behind the curtain, to see the absurd wealth you're going up against, to try to get to those best assets. Like a guy like Spinatron has had a great career his whole life, dumped money into the hobby when it was dirt cheap. When I was a kid in 03 at the Match Gathering store, I saw two guys Case War 03, 04 Exquisite in front of my eyes for $600 a box. And I saw, LeBron Exquisite RPA and a Carmelo Exquisite RPA opened in front of my eyes And it was maybe like $2 or $3 grand at the time. The guys just held forever, right? Because it doesn't matter. Like, I didn't have the money to open the box then, and these guys were opening the entire allocation the store got because they just felt like it, right? Like, that was what they spent back then on those cases is everything I had to get back into the hobby in 2019. Right. And like, if you're trying to compete against Goliaths, you're going to lose every time.
You can't buy a Prism box for it, a hobby Prism box for the cost of what those guys did a war on. But the point here is maybe, and I'm not steering this way, maybe what soccer was for you a couple years ago, maybe that's digital for somebody else. Maybe not you, maybe not me, but maybe that's, somebody's going to jump.
Formula One for me.
Formula One is fantastic.
Yeah? Yeah. Talk to us about that, because Cage got a lemon of the week or a lemon of the month, basically lemon of the year, if you really ask me. Because he wasn't – let me be fair, because I don't misquote people like Cage does. He was warning people not to jump on the F1 train too late because they could be hurt, right? It's that Eiffel Tower. But talk to us, educate our community on F1, because those guys, they're a little bit like, modern day superheroes, right? You don't really know Lewis Hamilton or his life, but he's still a real person, right? He's not Superman, but he's not as accessible as Luka Doncic, for example.
So when I was looking at F1, it was a few things. Like, it was at first look at the demographic of the fans that are watching the sport, right? This is the sport of hobby $10,000 watches that these guys show up to these races in. Tons of money that people are willing to not only put into the sport, it's an affluent community that watches it. It's a different market that watches it. It's incredibly popular. Then I looked at, how much can they possibly print for the first release of a set that they're uncertain of, even in a boom market, right? Well, the boom market is the only reason why they were Topps was willing to take the risk to make F1 in the first place. But at the same time, you look at the checklist, the number of parallels that they have is infinitesimal, because that 200-card checklist, there's not that much product that they made because they were scared to make that much because they didn't think it would sell out. So there's the scarcity factor that went on it. And the third thing, the best part, is that I've got two buddies that are huge F1 fans, and the two things lined up, and I was like, guys, you guys need to have some fun in the hobby, because they were burned out losing money on basketball. I'm like, do something you enjoy doing. If it checks off on everything else, let's have some fun on it. So we went back, we bought four cases of F1. We opened 3 of them. We did pretty well, and we still have one sealed that will probably cover the whole nut. So we're doing great. I'm glad that we got to mix a little, because I'm glad we got to mix a little fun with the investment, because people forget that, there's a fun aspect of this hobby that people have completely forgotten about. But hey, it works out.
Let's do a little rapid fire. So who's your favorite club soccer team?
Arsenal, women's, France, US, LAFC.
So pick one. All of them, all of the above.
Well, I mean, they're all different leagues, right? So technically all of them.
Okay, fair. Favorite player? Historically?
Henri.
Cage, favorite team?
For me?
Yeah.
My favorite soccer team? I don't have one. Listen, you know what it is? I have to be genuine, right? And I probably miss out on F1 profits, because obviously we were in groups where people were saying to buy it when it first came out, but it's not fun to me. I don't know anybody in F1. I don't watch F1. I don't plan to watch F1. So it would have been a flip for me. It would have been buy it and just sell it and not even know. I bought soccer cards, and I have I was very early on Soccer Chrome, dude. I was selling Haaland Chrome Bundesliga for $100 because I paid $150 for the box.
Yeah.
So I sold the one card. It came in almost every box had a Haaland base.
Because as Cage, I'm listening to you. You bought the box because I'm sure you saw the checklist is 100 cards, and you're like, "There's 65 cards in the box. I'm gonna probably open one every box, right?" Like, these are the things that collectors need to look at when, the cost analysis that needs to happen before they jump into all these things. Like, Cage talks like an experienced collector because he is one, right? And this is how.
But I didn't enjoy soccer. Like, I opened soccer. I opened Finest Soccer this year. I'm like, is this guy? I have to go into our groups and say, okay, guys, who am I looking for? Like, I open a box. I'm like, I have no clue. And at least I trust the people who tell me, okay, save that one, grade that one, sell that one. That guy's gonna be really good. I'm like, Muskaka? What's this guy's name? I don't know. So I mean, and that takes some of the fun out of it. So my favorite soccer team.
Drexel Dragons, good
Let's
answer.
see, NYFC.
LAFC, good one. Nice.
No, NYFC.
Oh, I like that. Did you know that Pele used to play for the Cosmos?
You mentioned it.
Have you been listening?
To you? No, I was captivated by Miles. Sorry,
dude. I was talking about him playing for the Cosmos. He played for the Cosmos while I was alive. I said this. This is part of this episode.
I'll go back and listen. I apologize.
Okay.
You talk a lot, man.
I do.
I'll one up that, Andrew. Did you know that Brazil declared Pele a national treasure, which didn't allow him to sign with any European clubs? There you go.
That's a.
Did you know he was in a movie, Andrew?
What movie? Kazam?
You really don't know Pele was in a movie?
I'm sure he was in quite a few movies.
With Sylvester Stallone.
Is that right? He fought Rocky?
He did not fight. It was a soccer movie. Rocky was the goalie. Guys, I need some comments. Pele, soccer guys. Did you know he was in a movie?
I did not. I'm going to look this up.
He was in a movie with Sylvester Stallone. Stallone was the goalie. It's a cool, like a war movie. Good stuff. Check it out. Yep.
Your dream is like a movie segment. Like you bring out.
I can find a way to get a movie into every one of these. Yes, and I do.
Miles, tell me if this is a strategy that works. Invest in Bayern, in Dortmund's young crop. Just every year, whoever they have on their team, just invest in their crop.
I mean,
they're always going to sell talent.
So far, so good, right?
Right.
So far, so good. Can't really miss with any of them. I mean, like, if I were to make the parallel, I would say that Dortmund is basically if Alabama played in the NFL. That would be my best analogy I could give you.
Yeah, but you just said during the episode, and forgive me my naivete here, that in that league, in the Bundesliga, basically, in that league, you have these guys, and the top guys are playing against crappy competition, and they're going to get all the opportunities. They're going to get the ball fed to them every single time, and they're going to play against guys who are crappy, and then they'll get elevated, right? So aren't some of the reason that the Borussia team, leaders, the guys who are the next prospects, their numbers are so inflated because they're playing against crappy competition? Yeah, and then when they get called up, but go ahead.
Has the market caught on to that yet?
No.
Does the market value Premier League performance over Bundesliga performance? No, it does not. Right. So like, it really doesn't until it does. Maybe
you're right.
Right.
But I mean, eventually though, people will realize what's going on there and the disparity between the leagues and the league play and the competition in the leagues, and then you're going to have kind of, I would think, price discovery. Right. I mean, I could be wrong.
It could. It's going to take a while. People have to watch the game. Like, I don't think we're even like we're 2 years in. I don't think I'm at the point where most people actually watch the games so much yet.
You're right.
Like, we're at the
some of the top F1 investors probably do not watch races. You're 100% right.
I mean, I'm going through watching Drive to Survive now for the first time ever, so I can get more into it. So like, come on,
This is where soccer is interesting, and that was a great point, Miles. Every single game just about is on at the exact same time. And there's 30 games on a Saturday morning. So you can't really watch all the games.
You can't.
That's where it gets a little bit more challenging, where F1, it's one race, but you get to see everybody and you get the judge there. Or NBA, you have some 7 o'clock, some 8 o'clock, some 9. So they're staggered. I know you got to bounce. Miles, rate these leagues in order. English league, French league, Spanish league, German league, Italian league.
Right and now, then US, MLS.
MLS is 6th.
Right now, I would put the Premier League top. I would put, do I put Spain too? No, I'd probably,
Spanish league's fallen off a little bit, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going to put them too. I'd probably put the Bundesliga 2, La Liga. No, hold on. I'd probably put Bundesliga 2, Serie A, Italy 3.
Wow. Spain is
4.
Go sit in 4th.
Spain 4, and then
France 5.
France 5.
Wow. Were you a fan of the Super League? Would you have liked to see that happen?
I actually as an American consumer, it would have been amazing to develop that marketplace because that's what Americans really want to watch, right? But part of the thing of when I was really getting into the sport, I learned the culture and getting into it. And I actually I went to Hong Kong a few years ago and I was talking to some guys on the subway, and two British two British guys who used to live in England, and they're telling me like they're trying to sell me on watching Championship football, which is like basically like the AAA version of the Premier League,
the pub leagues.
So he was saying he was saying that he got sold on watching the Championship because the delta of salaries. If you play the Championship, it's about like, don't quote me on the numbers, but I want to say like, let's say you're making like 50, 60 grand a year. And if your team gets promoted, all of a sudden your salary 10x's, right? So these guys are literally fighting for their lives in every single game that they play. And it's to keep that dream alive that everyone down the pyramid, that everyone has an opportunity to get to the top. You learn like stories like Jamie Vardy or N'Golo Kante, like guys that like were picking up trash a couple years ago, find their ways onto rosters, work their ways up, win every trophy under the sun. Like these are the stories that I learned to love. And like, I think the beautiful thing is about soccer is that there's so much opportunity in so many different leagues across the world, right? No one's actually dead in the water until like, some team somewhere will pick you up for another opportunity to try to revive yourself, to push yourself higher, or something like that. That's part of what makes the game fun for me. The investment into people who aren't the best to try to make that dream come alive.
Like guys from, Long Island, like where Cage is from, they have a pub league where, they go and watch this team play every single Sunday. And this team Sunday gets a chance in the FA Cup to go and play against Man U. And that like tradition, and sometimes they win, right?
Yep.
And it's like this little town of 20, 70,000, like very small towns get to go up against the Goliaths. And sometimes they beat them. So as much as I was for Super League, there is that tradition. Sorry, Cage, I just wanted to say that.
No, I'm with you, man. But Americans would love the Super League. There's nothing worse in sports than not being able to have a true champion in the sport, right? It's what holds boxing back. Nobody cares who the WBC champion is. You need to have a unified fight. You need to have a title, where you have every belt. It's one heavyweight champ of the world, right? Nobody wants when college football split the national title because they didn't have a championship game, and multiple teams could claim a stake of the championship. It was the dumbest thing in the world, right? And it's an American thing, I guess, to say we want to crown a champion.
But Cage, do you know how? So like Leicester, they won the Premier League, but they don't do tournaments, right? It's just you play every team twice and then you have a point total. What do you think about that model?
But that's just that's that league's champion. You know what I mean? So that now you have a champion in that league, and they could say they're the best team out there, but there's 4 other teams out there that could say they're the best team in the world.
That's why
there's no way of deciding.
Right? That's why we have Champions League. That's the thing. Like until people embrace it, right? Like, God, Kid, do you know the story of Leicester? Do you know like what happened that season?
Leicester's like he's like an 80-year-old guy who used to make bagels.
So
5,000
Uncle
to
Lester.
1.
Uncle
all right.
Lester.
So the story's crazy. So
no, by the way, you guys are saying it wrong. It's actually Leicester.
So dumb.
It starts the off season before where the players. So the owners of Leicester City are Thai. So they brought the entire team out to Thailand for like a team building exercise, and like maybe a week into the trip, like 5 or 6 guys get caught. And the headline, I kid you not, is like Leicester players caught in racist Thai orgy. And the owner loses his shit, fires the coach, gets rid of all the players, brings in a bunch of new guys. They trot out the new guys this season, and they go and win the title. It was wild. It was wild. You'll never get a story like that in any American sport. And that's what made me fall in love with the sport in the first place.
That's like 10 times more of an underdog than the Jets winning the Super Bowl this year. It's like 10 times more of an underdog story.
Sounds like a good movie, like The Replacements. Keanu Reeves coming in and replacement player type thing. It sounds like a cool. Somebody should make a movie out of it. Who's the main guy on that team? I'll collect it.
Jamie Vardy, Conte, Riyad Mahrez. That was a good team.
Yeah.
Hopefully they make a movie about it.
Mahrez went to Man City and Conte went to Chelsea.
Yep. All the guys got bought and sold after that season. And Leicester's been pretty good ever since then. ever since that year, because it changed the culture of the club. And City believes in them more money.
Vardy didn't go anywhere. Vardy's just like, I'm just gonna stay here. Like Vardy could have gone a lot of. He's a great player.
He pulled a Kurt Warner. He was bagging groceries a couple years before he won the league, right? Like that. I love, even I'm a 49ers fan because I'm from San Francisco. I love Kurt Warner even if he's a division rival, because he was that salt of the earth guy that worked his way up to live that impossible dream, right? Like we love those stories as Americans, but honestly, we don't get enough of them because sport has become something like, it's been a business, capitalistic, twisted, sick thing, right? But that's what it is.
Perfect hour episode. You dovetailed it into actually a play I had last week. I said, guys, take a look at Kurt Warner cards because Netflix is coming out with a documentary. I think it's Christmas, where I think it's like the true underdog story or something like that. Anyway, Miles, man, you're wise beyond your years. I got to tell you, man. I'm a big fan of yours, Adriana AG. I appreciate you introducing us from the Only All team. Guys, we'll be on tomorrow, Whatnot, doing a show like nobody else. Sunday morning show. Cage was 12-4, I believe, last week, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago. My power cut out, but I hit my bananas play on the Cardinals money line.
My Stone Cold lock clearly came in. It was Buffalo minus 17, and they won by 40. Yep. So I said they would have it covered by they have at least 14 covered by halftime. They're up by 16 at halftime. So yeah, man, we're doing good. Plus, I got a PSA return today that has some football cards in it, some slabs. So that'll be a nice auction for tomorrow on Whatnot. Hey now.
Let's go. Oh, you're gonna Whatnot them?
I'll Whatnot them. Yeah, Whatnot. I got Jalen Hurts. I got some Kyler. I got CD Lamb, a little Joe Burrow, some PSA 10s, some good stuff. So Whatnot.
Sorry, what were you gonna say? Do you have any predictions for the NFL week?
Oh, I just was saying that we should get Cage a big lock, like a giant lock, so we can use it as a prop on the show for you.
Stone Cold Lock of the week.
Stone Cold Lock. That's it, man.
He would, but he has a 2-liter soda and is glued to his hand everywhere he goes.
Almost finished.
Wow, look at that thing.
Almost finished.
Look at that thing.
What will be the demise of our show isn't any cancel culture or Cage says anything or I say anything wrong. It's literally going to be his nutrition plan. Soda mixed with Chick-fil-A 6 days a week. Seventh day, his heart gets a rest.
No, 7th day Chick-fil-A is closed.
7 days.
Otherwise, otherwise, I would have it all 7.
You did it with
you got to order enough on Saturday to hold you over for the reheat on Sunday.
Miles, where can people follow you? How can people support what you're doing?
I'm on Instagram right now, just on Instagram, LAFC.Gooner. Man, people have really been pushing me to make content, so maybe one day I will, but we'll see.
We could start a Saturday morning soccer show. I think that would be freaking awesome, man. And just like maybe watch the games live, do a little bit of banter. We could pitch it to Whatnot, right? Because as football season winds down, it'd be awesome to go live on Whatnot and talk and just talk footy, right? Like it doesn't have to be anything that's that intense. So
I could do color commentary of all the Barca games.
You should watch the guy who does color commentary for Barca, man. Ray Hudson, you'll love him, Cage.
He's hilarious.
Look it up.
Yeah.
You'll love
him. BN Sports, right?
Yeah. But I don't think he does it anymore. But man, his commentary on Messi is like legendary.
It was incredible.
No. It's so much better than that, man.
His vocabulary is like nobody you've ever heard. You could go. What's his name, Miles?
Should I stop?
Ray Hudson.
Ray Hudson. You could go. I'm sure you could go YouTube, like Ray Hudson color commentary, and you'll spend like an hour. You'll have the best time of your life. I didn't ask you. Messi to PSG. Pochettino subbed him out. He was pissed.
He's short.
What do you say, Cage?
I said Messi's short.
He is short. Did you know he got he had to move to Spain to get human growth hormone because he was a kid. He was so short.
I did not know that.
Yeah, legally, he got HGH because he was so short.
Is he going to be kept out of the Hall of Fame for that? Like Barry Jones?
No. This was prescribed by a doctor. He was so little, and his bones weren't growing. Did you see Golden Auction? What this? I'm just telling you what happened, dude. The Golden Auction is auctioning off Messi's 11-year-old.
His used HGA containers. That would be awesome.
HGH, not HGA. His like player pass when he was a kid. It's on Golden Auctions. I think it's like $50K or something. Like literally his signed player pass from when he was 11.
So there's a team called Newell's Old Boys. It's his little like pass to get into the academy. So they know who he is. So it's on Golden right now, and the team actually tweeted out that they're going to try to buy it. So we'll see.
I mean, that's super cool. No, like that's kind of like his rookie card.
Really is, isn't it? Really is. People are collecting like those Steve Jobs business cards, right? It's the same thing. Yeah, look at that thing. Nuts.
It looks just like a normal, like 11-year-old boy. It's kind of incredible that this guy went on to be the greatest player of all time.
Besides Pele.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Messi's never won a World Cup.
He was never in a movie with Sylvester Stallone either. When he does that, we can talk.
That.
Messi on PSG, Miles. Any take on that? What are you expecting from this team that's stacked but doesn't look that great? Sorry, leading question.
The problem is right now is that when you watch them, they're like three individuals that attack that don't really like play off each other. And a lot of times, like every team that Messi has led, the offense is fed through Messi, and the other two guys have to make runs to accommodate for Messi. They haven't adjusted yet, and it looks really sloppy. So I don't know if they are going to have enough time in this short amount of time to make it gel in the way that makes it work. I mean, it's funny is that we make these same criticisms. We watched the Heat super team with LeBron, Bosch, and Wade, and how long it took half a season for them to figure their shit out, right? Because that's how these super teams work, because you go from expecting the offense to run through you, or you're used to all these things, and then all of a sudden you become a role player, and things just don't work out the way that they do. It's not baseball where I can plug in a 300 hitter in the 5-hole and he's going to hit 300, right? It's not like that. These are fluid sports.
Yep. And you need a coach too, right? Like Guardiola took Barcelona to another level, but actually it was Kluivert. A lot of people forget that, like, set that system up, like early 2008-9 when it was Messi, Ronaldinho, and Eto'o.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I miss that team so much. And I think it was Iniesta and Xavi was right behind them. And he kind of created that Barcelona way that Messi fed into the system. But it was a system of, like you said, Messi play makes, and then you have guys like Eto'o that run off. And it was so beautiful to watch.
I am the soccer expert here, so I'm going to end this with a 3-question rapid fire. Number 1, has there ever been or will there ever be a better flopper than Neymar?
Man, if you watch the games, that guy gets murdered in those games, and you'll understand why he flops the way that he does, because people take like studs up, just knock him over, do all that stuff, and he doesn't get the calls. So like after a while, he starts flopping because he's just not getting calls. But at the same time, man, he is paper thin. You got to put on some muscle to put it off. But
that's right.
Something that works. It's just something that works for him. But yeah, he's picked up that title, but you should watch the games. He gets murdered. He does get murdered.
I do. But he flops.
Oh yeah.
There's 2 flops.
After he gets hit, he rolls around for like 16 rolls.
Like he flops around like a fish. Okay, so this is true or false? Suarez is a vampire.
Sure.
All right, nice. And then the real question, actually, for the folks who are listening. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You got some. So the last part.
I'll go real quick. Yeah. Guys, do you remember? No, I won't go. I'll tell the Suarez story after. Go ahead, Kay. Sorry.
No, so that's just the last one. If I forced you to only be able to invest in one going forward, Haaland or Mbappe, where are you putting your money?
My favorite player of those two is Mbappe, but I'll tell you why I would do Haaland, because it is the community, the high-end community that bought into Bundesliga Chrome when soccer was taking off. All those guys that bought in heavy at soccer at that point, they either had to pick Fatih or Haaland, and a lot of those high-end guys went for Haaland. So at the same time, like, the market stigma will tell you Haaland, because that's where things are going right now. And a lot of those guys are holding Haaland. So I would just lean toward, like we talked about it earlier, right? Looking at what other people hold as their assets, I would follow Haaland.
This was one of my favorite episodes. I haven't geeked out to like soccer talk. Paige, I don't know if we've done a soccer episode since we started this, like just fully soccer dedicated. So it's kind of, this was fun for me, just like personally. I hope our community enjoyed this. I know I did.
Well, listen, I know nothing about soccer, but I think I held my own.
Haaland's story is incredible, guys. If you ever get like to watch a documentary, his dad's a professional. He played at this complex where they like basically bred him to be a star. He's so incredible. He's from a small town that like adores him. So Haaland's story is awesome, man. And Miles, your story is even better, frankly, in my opinion. I appreciate you taking the time. This was one of my favorite episodes. Thank you for geeking out with soccer with us, guys. Follow LAFC.Gooner. Awesome guy, awesome content, awesome collection. Appreciate you, Miles.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.